So today we're going to talk about Avid. We're going to talk about some features that some people love and some people hate. But before we do that, what I'd like to talk about is features in general and Avid's history when associated with that. Typically, Avid follows the pack, especially in the last 10 years. They've really followed the pack. In the beginning, they led the pack. Now they kind of follow, and they've been doing that for some time. I understand some of the reasons they do it, but besides all of that, they're trying to cast the net to a wide audience, and they're trying to appeal to everybody. And let's face it, Avid has a wider net they're casting than anybody else. You can like it, you can hate it, you can accept it, or you can ignore it, but unfortunately or fortunately, it's just true depending on your point of view. One feature in general we're going to talk about today is going to be the folder track. Now, the folder tracks were implemented in quite a few other DAWs a long time before Avid did it. It took them forever at the request of many users to finally implement it. And when they did, the majority of users were very excited about it and started implementing and using it right away. But there are some challenges to using that when you're going to ultimately send your mix to another mix engineer to mix. We all develop particular workflows and our styles that work for us. If we're working from home or we're working solo, in other words, not working collaboratively with other people, you're going to find that you develop workflows that are just naturally intuitive to you. However, to someone else, it may be a spaghetti mess, a complete nightmare, because they approach it from a different perspective. And that's where it comes to light. So my friend Tony, who I won't say his last name for his privacy, is a well-known and established mix engineer and recording engineer out in LA. He's a Grammy awarding mix engineer and a Grammy awarding recording engineer, and has worked with some of the top talent that's available out there. And Tony posted a recent Facebook post. I regret the day Avid put folders in Pro Tools. It's cool if you're the only one recording and mixing on the session. You clearly know where the bodies are buried. But if you're the hired gun mix engineer and it takes you 3 hours to unwind someone else's labyrinth of a mix, it's a nightmare. Now, when I first saw his comment, I didn't immediately look at the comments because I was very curious to see what was going to be in the comments, because I personally love working with folders. I love working with folders. They work great for me. But ultimately, if I'm doing a session and I know it's going to go to somebody else, I'm very hesitant about using them. But that's not very often. Typically, I mix what I record. Then I started reading the comments, and then I started to realize, oh, that makes sense. I can relate to that. I can relate to that. I can relate to that. I can put myself in their shoes and completely understand. In many ways, you get the same type of situation with their I/O. You get a session from someone else with this crazy I/O that doesn't come close to matching yours, and you've got to develop the workaround to get it back to your I/O settings. And when you don't know how to do that initially, it's very frustrating. Now, of course, I know how to do that. But anyway, let's get back to this. So let's read some of those other comments and see what other folks had to say about this. Goesi, I'm sure I butchered your name and I'm sorry. Forgive me, please. But you said, a great music Grammy award-winning mixer once told me of his signature phrases, "Fixin' is not mixin'." Then our good old buddy Chris Lord Algae chimes in and says, yes, thank you. Folders just make things worse. Ron says, folder tracks are awesome if you know how to use them, though I'm not completely happy with the way they were implemented, especially the main folder track itself that should be a clip-like object like every other DAW. I find them very useful for organizing groups of effects and instruments. Brian says, I just had to go through that and it took me 3 weeks to find everything from a 17-song project. Okay, so now you've had a chance, and I've had a chance, to truly absorb Tony's initial comments, and then you can see where some people are on both sides of the fence on the discussion. I will say that the majority of people commenting in here are very well-established recording and mix engineers within the industry. So these are not your mom-and-pop folks out there. These are people who deal with this in the real world every single day. Considering Avid's bread and butter has always been the professional studio, the professional mix engineer, the professional recording engineer, you would think for those folks, they'd want to get it right as far as a workflow that works for them and their environment. That's what they're kind of known for throughout their history. Makes you kind of wonder why they didn't do that now. The problem is folders were created by another digital audio workstation that everybody quickly realized that's a great idea and then quickly implemented it and then started getting in this session of improving and improving and improving to where it is today. Most other DAW's implementation is done very well. It's just within Pro Tools, you get these frustrating situations. I think for most other DAWs, they're probably not experiencing this to the degree that you are within Pro Tools because it is so well established within the industry. I've got hopes for Avid because they really seem like with the new leadership that they're going in the right direction, and I want to encourage them. So Avid, this is not a slam on you. This is kind of, hey, listen to these folks, Avid, and fix this problem. Find a solution for it. I'd love to tell you exactly how I think it should be, but I'm probably not the best person to ask that, simply because I'm rarely in that situation. So for those of you out there that are, I'm kind of championing your cause out here for what little effect I can have, and I realize I'm just me. But let's see if Avid listens. Avid, I think you really need to start investigating this and figure out a solution to this. There has to be a way. Otherwise, here's what's going to happen. Here's what I would certainly do if this was happening to me on a regular basis. I would start developing a question. Is the session you're sending to me, does it have folders? Who created those folders? If I know somebody who does it and does it well, then I'm going to say, okay. If it's somebody I don't know, then I'm going to charge them an extra fee for unwinding all of that so I can get to it. There's no way in the world I'm going to waste my time. Time is money, and there's no way I'm going to waste my time trying to figure out a nightmare of someone else's workflow that makes perfect sense to them and is completely crazy to me. Oh man, this cold is kicking my butt. Why do I have to make YouTube videos when I've got a cold? Man, I have been sick all week. It's been kicking my freaking butt, but I'm at the tail end of it. So tighten up, Buttercup. It's time to get back to recording. Go! I'm going to guess that most of the comments I'm going to see in this particular thread are going to be related to, I love folders and it works great and I don't want them to change it. And I understand that point of view. I truly do. That said, this is an area where I think a lot of people want their cake and eat it too. I don't know how easy it is or how hard it may be to correct this particular issue because I'm not a coding person. I have no idea what it takes to do that, but I'm sure they have the skill set and the knowledge to be able to do this, and I think it's wise of them to do it. So Avid, if you can find a way to be able to not change the underlining way it works, but add another feature that somehow seamlessly breaks it out, because if I'm going to lose my routing, any sends that I may have or anything like that, that's going to be very frustrating because I have to be able to unpack all of that and unwind all of that. And that is a very, very, very frustrating process. You know, I did recently actually go through this. It wasn't folders, but it had to do with some other things from another session that I'd received. And it took me probably 2 to 3 hours to really kind of correct all of the issues that were associated with that because their routing was so wacky that it just didn't make any logical sense. There was a lot of redundant things happening in there. It was clear to me that they really didn't know how to properly do it. But it took me a while to sort all that out because this was over 100 tracks on this particular session. And that's no bueno when you got to do that, let me tell you guys. So back to the comments. I'm very curious to see what a lot of you people have to say. Some of you out there, if you experience this problem, tell me what you think your solution is. Those others, tell me what you think it is. The reality is that I think this is something that needs to be addressed when your customers who make a living off of this are speaking this clearly and plainly to you, Avid. I think it's important that you listen. So do me a favor, Avid, listen. So leave your comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And I appreciate you watching me. And I hope that you find this content particularly enjoyable today, or enlightening, or whatever the crap you want to call it. I hope you freaking like it. Because I'm sick as a dog. I've been sick all week, and I just had to really kind of get this out because I've kind of gotten behind. And I don't want you guys to forget about me. Just joking. No, I really don't. So anyway, until next time, hope all of you have a great day. Bye-bye.